stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. Lohman?
Here.
Mr. Hyam?
Here.
Mr. Heiss?
Here.
Approval of the minutes for the regular meeting held January 9th, 2022.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Lohman?
Yes.
Hyam?
Yes.
Heiss?
Yes.
Approval to pay the bills as have been presented over the past month.
So move.
I second.
Roll call.
Lohman?
Yes.
Hyam?
Yes.
Heiss?
Yes.
Okay, now we're going to have before we start with our regular meeting, we're going to have a special presentation.
Good evening. My name is Brenda Jackson, and I'm the Crosby Township Community Coordinator. And I have the distinguished privilege and honor of meeting Melissa Kimball tonight for the first time. We have been emailing back and forth and communicating, but had never met. What a sweet one she is. She contacted me because she wanted to find a way to get the names and be able to, I guess, meet, greet, and also certainly thank them as well as our community for the Crosby paramedic firefighters who were able to come and really, I can't tell the story because I don't know the story. Can you come up, Melissa, and just begin to share, like, what happened? And just come on up. Just come right here, and we'll just be the friends we are, right? But you can hold the mic.
Sure.
And just right in front of you and just kind of explain what happened.
Okay. I'm going to get my cheat sheet out because I am not a public speaker. So, but I wanted to make sure that I got
Before
my...
you start,
Yeah.
can you repeat, what is your name?
Melissa Kimball,
Okay. How do you spell your last name?
Kimball.
Thank you.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Thank you guys for having me tonight. It's an honor to be here. So before I came, I asked my kids, they're 12 and almost 9. I said, what does a hero mean to you? Give me some words to describe what a hero is. And these are the words that they gave to me. Brave, strong, helpful, dedicated, unselfish, and kind. Every day, members of your Crosby Township Fire Department come to work to serve the members of this community. They tell their loved ones goodbye, not knowing what the next 12 to 24 hours has in store for them. But they show up ready to report for duty, knowing that the calls and emergencies they respond to are others' worst nightmares. For my family, December 24th, 2022, just 6 weeks ago, was one of the scariest and terrifying days of our lives. So if you remember Christmas Eve, it was bitter cold, icy, windy, snow, but it was Christmas Eve. And I wanted to be with my parents who are in their 80s, and I didn't want them to get out in the snow. And so I said, we'll come to you. So we gathered some games, had on our Bengals gear because the Bengals played at 1, and grabbed some food and got in my Toyota 4Runner and went just 6 minutes up the road. That's how far they live from our house. So we got onto 128 past Stricker's Grove and hit a patch of ice. The next few minutes felt like forever. But we slid on some ice and went over the double yellow line. And a milk truck, a Gunther semi, was coming in the other lane, and there was nothing we could do. And it hit us head on. So we slid off into the embankment My first initial instinct was, oh my God, I'm alive. And the second was checking over my family. I'm a nurse at Children's, and so my assessment skills went into play. So I immediately looked back into the back seat of my car, checked my kids over. Miraculously, they were fine. They were talking to me, no injuries. My husband, looked over at him, he was fine. No injuries. We were trapped in the car. Some kind residents who live in the trailer park on it's River Road right there had come out. They were the first responders. We were able to kick open the back seat of the car, and they were able to take my kids out of the car and took them into their home so that they could be warm. My husband was able to get out of the car, but I was trapped. And so the next faces I saw were the faces behind you. Every time I pulled back the airbags, they were right there with kind smiles on their faces, telling me everything was going to be all right, giving me updates on my kids, on my husband, calling for backup. Just want to make sure that I hit every one of my of my points. I think, you sacrifice every day, and you put your lives in danger every day just to serve the community. And I want to thank you so much for what you did for me and my family that day. You are our heroes. It was so bitter cold. You guys just, I don't even know how long we stood there, and just kept all of us calm and got me to the hospital safely, got my family to the hospital safely. So I cannot thank you enough. Thank you very much.
God bless you. Wow, Stephanie shared with me the picture of the car, and I don't even know how anybody survived it. It was amazing, and by the grace of God, it's just amazing. I think too, it's really neat that you have stepped up, because a lot of people are always ready and eager to sometimes say what's wrong in the world or what's not going well or whatever, and you're here to say thank you, and that everything that they did was a blessing to your family, and we're just grateful for that. And I'm grateful to get to meet you. We're going to move over here to the middle and ask Chief Jason Davis to come up and introduce to you, I got a little knot there, the firefighters and paramedics who were on that team.
Well,
Hi.
the crew that day was Lieutenant Jonathan Keller. Come on up. Lieutenant Steve Ludman. Firefighter paramedic Stephanie Bittner. And firefighter paramedic Dan Williams.
Let's give him a hand.
Glad you're doing much better.
Thanks.
I'm going to introduce our president, Doug Lohman, who has the presentation, see if I can. And then if Dennis, you and Chuck would come over here, like all the trustees, please, and then you can shake their hands after they walk through that.
We have certificates for the 4 firefighter and paramedics, and along with Melissa for that day, signed by the 3 trustees and myself. Dan Williams.
Yeah, Danny Williams. It's okay. It's a certificate of appreciation for the Crosby Township Fire Department. Firefighter paramedic Danny Williams presented in appreciation of outstanding professional medical care and compassion on behalf of the community resident Melissa Kimball. Stephanie Bittner.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. Lieutenant Ludman. Whoops. Congratulations. And John Keller, sorry. Congratulations. And Melissa. Thank you.
Very nice.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you. Thanks. So you're free to, oh. So you're free to stay or go, whatever you want to do. Thank you. All right. So correspondence. April 27th is the Power On Butler Rural Electric Cooperative annual meeting at Miami University's Millett Hall. 5 p.m. registration, dinner's at 6:30 with a business meeting. We usually go to that. Just got a notice that the state of Ohio that the tax revenue, personal revenue, and sales tax and use revenue is all up a decent percentage from last year. So the state's stabilization fund is at an all-time high of nearly $3.5 billion. The Winter Conference, which has already happened, now has recordings available to purchase of all their classes and that. Hamilton County Board of Health meeting was today at 4, and then March 14th is that special meeting, which I'm going to at noon. They want the presidents of townships to go to that.
What's the, what were the dates on those couple of things, the Board of Health?
It was today at 4 was their regular meeting, and then the March 14th at noon is when they're having like a special meeting.
Thanks.
Then there had been a request that someone had asked where the Fernald name came from. I don't know if, I guess I could probably maybe contact, I have a contact there. I guess I'll try to find out unless anyone knows. But maybe if somebody listening knows, they could come forward. Michelle Elliott, who was here last month from Harrison Library, has taken a regional manager position, so she's no longer at Harrison. They have not yet assigned somebody else for her role. Alicia Reese had that meeting last January that Dennis had mentioned, state of the county. And just one of the big things she said that she announced that they're going to spend $15 million on a regional safety complex as a move to close down a Cincinnati gun range in Evendale. And the only other thing I had was in possibly purchasing the source book, the Ohio Township Association source books. The ones we have are pretty out of date, and we can get a set of 3 for the trustees, 1 for the fiscal officer, 1 for personnel, and 1 for zoning for $100. So I think that would be a good idea to get because it'd be updated if nobody has an objection. And that's one too. Okay. Okay, that's all I have for correspondence. Dennis?
Okay, I got a letter from the Ohio Auditor of State. They're going to examine the fire pension fund. as of December 31st, 2021.
We got that. We got that as well.
Did you? Then I got a notice for the BAS, which is Boundary and Annexation Survey for 2023. I went online. That's with the U.S. Census Bureau. I looked at the township map. It seemed like everything was in order, so I signed off on it. And so that was taken care of.
What one was that? That was from where?
Boundary and Annexation Survey from the U.S. Census Bureau. Then there was an email that came through, I guess, to all of us about Dale Stanley. He lives up in Fort Scott, and he was complaining about a lot of gunshots that he was hearing. And I called him up and tried to ascertain where the shots were coming from. Sounded to me like they're coming up river from the gun range, from the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department. It's right across from Rumpke Ball Field. So he acted like he didn't know that was over there, but I told him I lived down there for numerous years, and it can be a problem, especially if they start opening up at night. My problem was that they opened up one night about 2 o'clock in the morning, and with that dead air down there, it sounded like they were right in my front yard. So I talked to him about that, and that's pretty much it.
Dennis, can I mention something just because it is, I think it may be really related to that. I actually received a call last month from a guy who just got my number off the website.
Yeah.
And he said he lives in Fort Scott, and he actually had a very good idea of where not just gunshots but extremely loud explosions were coming from. And he has a drone that he had flown kind of over the river part to and he asked me, what do I do? I said, can't really do much, but I advised to call the sheriff's department and offer his cooperation in passing on any information that he may have related to and then it would be their job to investigate whether anything is actually illegal or not, because part of his complaint was the fact that some of this is like 2-3 o'clock in the morning. And I said, so you've got the sheriffs you could call, and I said you could also call an attorney and see if you have a nuisance issue. But
The thing is, it's in Corrine Township.
It's not even Crosby Township.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah,
I know when I had issues with it, I called up the dispatcher that night and told him about it, and then it pretty much ceased
yeah.
for a while. So,
That night.
well, not that night because
Yeah.
it was already done, but I didn't have a lot of issues after that. And he told me that officers would get off duty, and then they would go down and practice after they got off duty. So it just happened to be in the middle of the night. So,
The guy that called me was describing a place that definitely was not the sheriff's range.
Yeah.
And it was, and it also was not Fairfield Gun Club either.
right.
It was, he had it pretty narrowed down.
Okay.
But over near Fort Scott.
Okay.
All right, Chuck.
Yeah, I got a letter from the county of Hamilton that has on the Emergency Management and Homeland Security Agency. They had a meeting on January 30th at 4 o'clock. I guess they have these every so often, so you update people on what's going on. So then I got, I guess, a summary of what's going on at Fenard Preserve for the month of February. I guess y'all got the copy of that. So then I guess Brenda gave me a copy of the census for 2021, the information about Crosby Township. There are like 5,440 people, 19.8 square mile, 285 people per square mile, all kinds of different information. So, and the other thing is from the Hamilton County Resource, the Hamilton County Solid Waste Management District. They have notified us that from February the 8th to March the 9th, they accepting comment on the plan. They got a plan update, so they're open for any comment for the next 30 days. So, and they are located at 250 William Howard Taft Road. I guess it's pick up a copy of it, and I also got email. So, all I have.
Thanks. Guest, Sheriff, Lieutenant Stuckey.
All right, so for the month of January, we had 105 calls. We had 9 criminal reports, 2 non-criminal reports. Our detectives were assigned 6 of those cases. None so far have been closed that I'm aware of. We had 5 auto crashes, 0 DUI, OBI arrest, and you always, as always, you get your traffic detail report from Corporal Brian Peak. One thing I did want to mention on the side is that on March 23rd at Taylor High School, they're going to have a job and career fair. So it's going to be actually open to the students for an hour from 2 to 3, but then it's open to the general public from 3 to 4. So if you know anybody who's interested in going to a job career fair, I put a couple flyers out on the table. So anything else? No.
Okay, thank you. Public at large. Go ahead.
I'm Melba Gard. I'm president of the Crosby Township Historical Society, and I have come several times and just coming again because we will be starting our meetings in March, and wanted to find out what the update is on the old town hall. We've noticed that things have been happening there that look good, and we appreciate that and wanted to tell you that as well. And so I just want to know where you were as far as work is concerned on it, and because we're interested in getting inside of it and doing inside work. So I'm here just to get an update.
Yeah, I think the issue is transferring title to that property to the Historical Society. And we can do that by quitclaim deed. The only thing we need is, in order to make a charitable deduction to a 501c3 organization, the value of the real estate has to be no greater than $2,500. So if you look at the auditor's website, that parcel's worth about 20, but with a right of reverter, in which case the original owner would get it back once it's not used for the historical purposes, it probably would reduce the value significantly, because no one would probably buy it if they knew they had to turn it back over to the owner. Mm-hmm. So I think all the township would need is, and I mentioned this to Dennis last week, we probably need something in writing from an appraiser, somebody with a real estate background, just to confirm that due to the circumstances of the deed, you know, the property really isn't, you really couldn't sell it. Mm-hmm. So that would, I think, establish the value at, you know, under the statute at $2,500 or less. Mm-hmm. But I think we need to get that before we actually agree to, you know, transferring title. And we had to do it by resolution as well. But if anybody knows somebody who can give us an opinion, or I can find someone who could give us comment on that,
I guess any realty,
I would think so. I think the township would need that,
right?
you know, as evidence that, you know, in their opinion, the value's, you know, that 2,500 or less.
I would agree.
You know anybody?
I can find somebody.
Okay.
You want me to find somebody?
Yeah.
All right.
So I talked to Dennis one time a while back about the possibility of the township donating that property to us, but you know, there was problems about, you know, being able to transfer the land or the property, not the land. Well, I guess the way I understood it was that the land really belongs to another person, the neighbor, but the building doesn't. And so that was,
Whatever's on the land, the building's included.
yeah.
You
Yes.
can't just move the building, you know, it's all valued with the building on it.
I
so-
understand that. The problem was if the township doesn't own the land, then, you know, how do you,
Well, they own it, there is a deed,
okay,
but the problem is the deed has what
Those
they call a right
stipulations.
of reverter in it, which says that, hey, if you're no longer going to use the property for the purposes that you're using it, it's going to go back to the original owner. And the owner, you know, they don't have any problem with the transfer,
okay.
okay?
Wasn't sure about that.
Yeah. As long as we preserve the right for them to get it back once it's stopped being used for that purpose,
Okay, okay,
which we can do in the deed. We can reflect that in the deed. Because it's in the deed, the same thing is in the deed to the township. So as long as the deed to the Historical Society has the same language in it, that's fine.
okay.
But the statute requires a few things. One is, you know, for the township to make a charitable donation, without selling it, it has to be this, you know, small value.
Out, okay. The update also was what, if there was anything further that the township was going to do to repair anything or whatever. I know that the roof was redone and the foundation was taken care of, and I thought I'd heard something about painting, but I don't.
Yeah,
I
we're
don't-
going to take, and since we're responsible for the outside, we're going to paint the building in its current color scheme, and then we're going to reattach the sign back
Okay.
up. They made a new frame for it,
Okay,
and so then that'll go back up on the front, unless you have other ideas. But they made a new frame for the sign, and it'll go back up after we get the painting done.
okay. We had discussed about the floor joists. Is there anything going to be done about the
Well,
floor joists?
We're not really responsible for the floor joists, I don't think. We're responsible for the outside, the foundation, and stuff like, I read it, and it didn't say anything about the inside.
I'm not sure that that would be considered the inside.
Well,
It's part of the structure itself, part of the, I'm thinking it's part of the foundation. It's holding up the whole building.
I'll have to take and look at it. You know, it just depends on how much money. If you're wanting the whole floor to be level, I can tell you right now, I wouldn't be in favor of that because you'd have to rip up the whole floor. If we just do the side where it's fallen off because the joists are rotted off, and we jack that back up and scab on another joist to lay on the foundation that's underneath to bring it back up to where it's supposed to be, you know, we can look at that. But that floor is not true from one side to the other, and we don't have that kind of money. That's where, once we give you the the property, you can get a grant, and maybe you can get a grant to do that. So I would, be my opinion, I don't know what everybody else thinks about, but once we get this transferred into your name, if you can try to get a grant to redo the inside, then that'd be I would think, then you could get it done the way you want it, instead of us just going in and fixing the spots that are just falling down.
Well, of course, I'll have to take this to my board as well to make
Right.
sure that they are, you know, in favor of doing it and the membership. So we'll probably discuss that then in March when we have our first meeting, and then get back to you on it. So
I don't know what the other trustees are thinking, so if they want to jump in and say something, but
Well, I'm kind of in the middle, but
you are, yeah.
but my thought is the outside joint is bad because the building never been taken care of in a long time. It was sitting there, I guess nobody really paid much attention to it, really what it amounted to.
For a
So,
long time.
yeah, and there was no gutter. As far as I know, the gutters and downspouts never was on there.
Yeah, that's gonna make a huge difference. I mean, that pretty much will stop it from getting worse.
Yeah, so if that was on, then I think I would have stopped all this joint from rotting on the end. So I've been here 36 years. I can't remember ever seeing any gutters on that building.
I don't think it ever had them.
So
We've never
probably
had it.
not. So
There's never gutters on it,
yeah,
just because of the woodwork, the way it was.
yeah. So I'm kind of in the middle. I would say, you know, what caused it? Because maybe because the township didn't take care of it. I don't know. So I don't know how Doug feel about it. So, but I know I can't vote one way or another. So.
okay, well, I thank you.
I'll look into it. I'll try to get a price, you know. I asked the guy that did the outside what he thought, and he looked at it and he said, if you're wanting the floor level, you'd almost have to tear the whole floor out. Because,
Well, you know, the important thing is the safety. It has to be safe to be able to open it up to the public, and
Oh, yeah.
we could try to get a grant.
it
That
doesn't
mean that
creak
we
a whole
will
lot
be
in the
able.
middle. It's just that it's sloped down on either side, so.
Well, that's because the foundation probably has also not fallen down, but has.
Well, just the moisture got in there and then the joist
Exactly,
rotted.
the foundation caused all that,
Yeah.
probably basically.
I was surprised the foundation was in as good a shape as it was, because it's pretty stable yet. The rock foundation, they must have used good concrete in that because there wasn't much of it falling apart.
Yeah, the rock wasn't, it was the
Yeah,
log
so,
that was
You
the sill
know, I'll
plate.
take and, I get spare time and I get bored, I'll go in there and
Okay,
see, you know, I tried to figure up a cost of just scabbing the floor joists. I counted them, and at the time I thought $500 of material would put that back up along that one side. So, but then you got to tear that floor up.
well, we don't know what's around the other sides either. We just
Right.
had taken that spot out of the floor to see what was happening and found, you know,
And the trouble
at
is,
least
it's
two
not
floor
up high
joists.
enough where a guy can crawl underneath of it.
No, it's not.
And so it's just too close to the ground, and that's the main problem.
Yeah.
Be up another foot, so you could work underneath of it. It would be a different animal, but, yeah, so, all right,
Okay, thank you.
we'll roll along with it.
Anybody else? I tried to reach out to Tim Zellick from Hamilton County Parks. I called him 3 times since our last meeting and left 2 messages and never heard back from him, so I don't know where that's going. All right, legal, Alan,
Okay,
your microphone, please.
yeah, thank you. Let's see, we talked about Historical Society. The bids for the shelter, Dennis and I met with Bob May last week, and he's working on a big bid package. In the meantime, he prepared the notice to bidders, and we sent it to the Inquirer today for publication. It's going to be publicized on this Thursday in the Inquirer. So, and then there's other deadlines coming up that are contained in the bid documents. At our meeting, there was going to be a pre-bid meeting on the 10th of March where they all come in and take a look at the area and the project. The bids will be due on the 24th of March and open that day. And then the next Monday, the 27th, it's anticipated there'd be a special meeting to award the bid, the winning bid. So.
When was that?
That would be on the 27th of March, which would be a special meeting just for the purpose of awarding it.
When is that? What day of the week is that?
That's a Monday.
Okay.
So I would think at the March meeting, you might want to announce the special meeting.
Right. That's to award.
And also
that's
on
to
the
award.
24th, the opening of the bids.
Yeah.
So it'd be on the 27th that it's awarded.
Yes. The other thing we spoke in the last meeting about me getting involved in this fraudulent check issue, but I haven't gotten anything. I don't know if you still want me to pursue it, and if so, send me whatever, you've got on it.
That's probably my fault. We'll get it to you ASAP. We'll get it to you this week.
Okay. That's all I have.
Well, I noticed in the report from the sheriff's department that another bank had the same issue, and they went ahead and paid it off right away.
Well, that's why.
They get a police report, and once you get a police report, I guess the bank will required to pay off, I guess, if it's determined it was.
That's why. I mean, we gave the matter to their department that investigates such things as soon as we found it. The fact that it hasn't been made right yet, the fact that they haven't followed up, the fact that they don't really answer the phone is why I'm suggesting, to get the attorney involved, because we obviously shouldn't be holding the bag for that. If anybody should, the bank should.
Not after this much time.
Well, right, and not after, what we know. The fact that they declined a very similar check from presumably the same people, and they missed ours. And, we gave them, immediate notice as soon as we found out. So I think we did everything that we're supposed to do, and at this point, we'll have Alan ask about it.
Anything else for Alan? Maintenance, Harry?
I really don't have anything. The only thing I've got, I get a lot of calls on Fort Scott on the roads, and I explain to them what we're doing, and they all seem to be satisfied with it, so.
Yeah, I got a contract here,
Okay,
so we'll be handling that.
all right.
The only thing I have is I was walking around yesterday after I signed my other checks that I didn't sign. And guy brought his dog. There was two women out there with their dog. They were on leash. Guy showed up. His dog was not on a leash. It was on an electronic leash. Now, I never heard of such a thing. But he said that he could adjust it to be within 6 feet or whatnot, and I still have a problem. If a dog charges, is that going to stop him dead in his tracks when he gets a shock, or is he going to charge right through that? So the guy did put the leash on. He had a leash with him, and he did put it on, but do we need to adapt our sign out there that says a physical leash and not so that it's made so that it's got to be physical and not electronic?
It sounds like an invisible fence, and I know dog go right through there.
Oh,
so
yeah, you know.
I,
So,
I think
never
when I
heard of
came
it.
to sign checks, I think there was somebody there with 2 dogs, and I don't even think they were just running. Big dogs. So
Yeah.
I should have stood here and watched to see if they would pick up after him, but I don't know what they did. But I don't know what people don't. I mean, we got the sign there now.
well, the people I had, there was 2 women, they had their dogs on leashes, so there's some people that are paying attention to it, but this was brought up to me, electronic leash. I never heard of such a thing. So we might need to redo the sign and say physical, so that there's no ambiguity. So we want you to look at that.
Okay.
I was walking the trail out there, and there's big cracks. You probably need to get those fixed since people were walking on that. So you got the tar
Yeah.
patching machine. And then on either end of the bridge abutment, it's settled down a little bit, so you got a lip that's up now. That needs to be filled in so somebody doesn't stub their toe and we're liable. It's settled down against the
Yeah.
concrete abutment.
Yeah.
It just needs to be filled back in with asphalt. And so that nobody stubs their toe. And then our parking lot out here, it's getting some cracks in it. You probably need to fill them and then have it sealed, I would think, or so that we don't have to repave it that soon. So that'd be about the only thing.
Well, the weather breaks where we can,
I know.
if it's raining or snowing.
All right, I'm just saying, when the
Yeah.
weather gets right,
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
Oh, yeah.
because there's only like 6 or 7 cracks, but the cracks are
Yeah,
that
I
wide.
seen that, yeah, I seen
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
and so, and then the other thing, since we're gonna be putting a shelter in and they're gonna be driving up through Willie Road straight in there, I'd like to know from a Little League team is how far out do those kids hit a ball so that we're not having a driveway. If we need to curve the driveway over to the side a little bit more so that they don't run out there and hit a gravel driveway and have a problem feeling a ball. Little League, most of them are just little kids, so I'm assuming 150 feet out would be about as far as they can hit one. And a driveway wouldn't be a problem, but we probably need to think about that if we're gonna have that access come in there for them to put because we could put stakes up with flags to keep the driveway over if we need to, instead of just coming straight back. And then that brush pile you got there, you probably need to get that moved over to the side.
About going right now.
Yeah.
It's
So,
going.
because it depends on when we get these bids back, and if we get them awarded, they might start work on it within a month after they get the permits. So it just depends on how fast they get the permits. So it's something that we would want to be ready by April, May to have a definite where we want to put that driveway. So, other than that, that's enough.
I volunteer. I can take care of the questions related to the teams because I have communicated with all the coaches
Yeah,
when we got that
if
all
you
together.
could.
I'll do that this week. I'll send out an email and let you know.
Okay, well, leave Harry know.
All right.
And
I'll let Harry know.
I'll be touching base with him
Okay.
anyway.
Got
And
it.
then, since we're talking roads, you got a copy of this, Alan?
Yeah, I put one in his mail. I got that emailed to me, and I made copies for everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, I gave Alan one, and Matt, and Chuck has one. So we need a
if you want,
resolution.
I'll take and read through it, so it's on the record.
Yeah, we need a resolution, I think.
Resolution. Written resolution.
No, we're gonna have to have a resolution.
I haven't seen this before tonight, so.
Oh, haven't you?
No.
Well, then,
I mean, I know Dave Stevenson, I think he's a good guy, because I went to law school with him. But, I think, since we need a resolution, is it possible to do this at the next meeting, or is there a rush to get it done?
it doesn't say there's a rush to get it done.
Yeah, I don't see any kind
Yeah,
of deadline.
January 26th, so we just got it, not that far.
So we just need, so there's an agreement, obviously, that the trustees would be signing into agreement with, and then a resolution, like, for the purposes of the meeting, adopting this agreement. That's what we need, right?
Yeah, the resolution has to be attached.
Yep.
So there's another resolution during my report that I need to run back and get. I'm gonna ask Brian to take my chair when Brenda does her report. I can draft that resolution within 2 minutes if you want me to bring it back to this meeting. If it's something that you want to look and consider and, sign later, that's fine too, but you can have it this meeting if you want it. I can have that done.
Probably needs to be done ASAP.
Let's do it.
Yeah. You got a copy of this too, right?
Yeah, I've got it on
Okay, so
I've got
you
it on
know
my
what-
desk.
You know what they are asking for.
Yeah, I was just looking at Chuck's because I left it on my desk in there. But yeah, Brian, if you want to take my chair right now, I guess when Chief does
need to
his
read
and
this
Brenda
into
does
the
his, I can
No? Okay.
I can get that.
Okay. Then I guess it has to do with maintenance. I had someone put in my mailbox, maintenance supervisor position description. And it's different than the one that we currently had, so I didn't know if we were gonna change it, if we would have to
Well,
vote on
it's
that.
different than what we have, mainly because what we have right now doesn't address all those issues, so, I don't know if you got the copy that,
Yeah, I have the one that was in my thing, and then I have the old one
okay.
from the book.
Well, it's up for the trustees to consider which way they want to go. I just redid it just so that I thought it was a little more current. And then, because we need to get, if we're going to advertise for a
Right.
new supervisor, we need to get
Right.
this underway. So if you want to take and address it at the March meeting and come up with an ad to put in the paper, then that's what I would suggest both of you do, and, because I already wrote one ad, and I was gonna put the job description on our website.
This one.
And then the ad in the paper would reference to go to the Crosby Township website to get the information. But I would like to go into executive session after this meeting and figure out a pay scale that we were gonna do, and whether it would be part-time or full-time. So,
I mean, I read over this. The only thing I didn't see too much on there is that that they would be like in charge of being able to manage other people and hire, interview and hire people. Because I mean, that is a skill that some people don't like to do.
well, you can put that in there. I mean, it's a rough draft.
Yeah, I'll try to word it correctly, but it just, the closest thing was plans, schedules, organizes, directs operation, and maintenance department. But, okay, I'll look at that. Anything else for Harry? All right, fire, Chief Davis.
January run totals, we had 38 EMS details, 27 fire details, for a total of 65 details in January. Silco Fire and Security Systems came out and did our yearly fire extinguisher inspection in the township. We reached all the extinguishers except for one location, and I've talked to Harry about that, and I'll have Silco come back out and check that small barn next door. We didn't have a key for it. I'll get a key from Harry. Our EMS documentation system, which is called Safety Pad, has been bought out by another company. That company has not and will not be updating the Safety Pad software that we currently use that they purchased. Safety Pad software will be shutting down the first week of April. Lieutenant Jason Henn has spent numerous weeks at looking at other EMS software. And when I say EMS software is, we use tablets now where we go to an EMS detail, all the information goes onto the tablet. We can ship that to the hospital, ship it to our billing company. It's a key part of the EMS that we use for billing and for hospital information.
Chief, is that Medi-Count?
No.
Okay.
Of the numerous companies he's looked at both pros and cons of each system and what each system, how it would work best for our needs. In this report, I have a description of the company that we have chosen to replace Safety Pad. I believe it's on your third page. And behind it is equipment needed to make the system work. And what that means is replacing the current iPads or tablets we have now, getting a screen protector for them, and a case. We use these all the time, and going from vehicle to house or going through the woods for a person injured in a fall, we have to protect those small handheld computers so they don't break. So I'm asking for approval for both of those, the software itself, startup and yearly, and then the equipment for $3,750 to go ahead and purchase the necessary software and equipment so that we can start the switch over and train on it before April hits. Per the company, emergency networking system to start it up and run takes about 3 or 4 weeks. And that allows us time to make generic runs or fake runs, make sure it goes to the hospitals, make sure it goes to our billing company, which is Medicare or Medi-Count, and work the bugs out before April hits.
So it's like, it's $2,000 a year. What were we paying for the other one that's?
We pay, that comes straight out of Medi-Count. So the revenue we bring in from EMS details, before we get it, they pay for that software. And off the top of my head, it's right around probably the same price. I couldn't tell you exactly.
Is that Medi-Count?
Yes.
Part of it's based upon how much we collect. Off the top of my head, it's roughly like $150 a month. They deduct from what Medi-Count pays us. That Safety Pad comes out of that amount. So it's $150, $200 depending upon how much we collect.
So this would be more of a set fee then? It wouldn't be
Correct.
set up differently than it was?
It is. This company was as close to Safety Pad as he found. He went through 4 different companies. The company that purchased Safety Pad was outrageous pricing per year. The system changed quite a bit. It was not user-friendly on his end, meaning he could not go in there and make adjustments such as certain thing that the state requires to be filled out. Had a tough time with the company that purchased Safety Pad. This company here, Emergency Networking, allowed him to make to tweak the system for the state of Ohio and for our medical director. If that makes sense.
Kind of.
Yeah. We knew about this for, like I said, for the past few weeks. So we're trying to find, he's made contacts with other departments on what they use. I know Ross Township uses this. There's another one in Hamilton County uses this. It just depends on the system, and that was the closest to the system that we are replacing. That wasn't outrageous in price.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with it.
So what's the name of this company?
Emergency networking?
Oh, okay, that's the name.
Yes.
Okay.
I have a contract from them. Once I get approval, I will sign that tomorrow, fill it out, and they will start, they'll bring in personnel down to help us make the transfer over.
I'll make a motion for $3,750 for the emergency networking software and equipment.
Yes.
Second?
Roll call.
Bowman,
Yes.
Hyab,
Yes.
Heiss.
Yes.
And that is all I have.
I got an email. You probably got about another fire hydrant on Chapel Lane.
Yeah, I believe I put that into the system also and gave you an email and the resident the email. I have not heard back if that has been fixed yet. As soon as I get confirmation it's been fixed, I will resend it to you and that resident.
So that's through Cincinnati also, or
It's through the website where we
yeah.
log hydrants for.
So that one still on Strimple is still.
I have not received that has been fixed yet either.
Are they that slow normally to?
Probably.
That's why we carry 1,000 gallons of water and have 1,000 feet of hose and.
Yeah. It's,
Yeah.
The only other thing I have is, have you thought about what you would need if rooms, bedrooms,
We have.
offices and stuff in case we redo the firehouse?
We've been getting that together, and I have a card of a contractor. I forgot to bring it with me. I'll give it to you. I'll put it in your mailbox. This contractor is building a couple stations for another department in the county, and I didn't know if you wanted to talk to him and see, placing the bid, or see if what could be done with the current situation, meaning adding on to it
Right.
and or rebuilding.
It probably wouldn't hurt to have them come out. We get an expert opinion on, we wouldn't be awarding a bid or anything, but if he would come out and look at the facility and you tell him what you're thinking and what else is going on.
He could recommend a few things.
Yeah.
Go this
And if
route.
he charges for it, we'd have to pay him. We need to have an expert opinion on it.
Would you like for me to contact him instead of you?
Unless somebody has objections to it, I think we need to go that route. At least have one person give us an opinion.
I can't even recall the company's name off the top of my head. I just received it about a week and a half ago.
Yeah. But no, I would pursue it because I'd like to get this ball rolling.
Okay.
anything else? Community Coordinator Brenda.
Good evening. Well, we've got some fun things going on this week. The seniors are planning an overnight trip for this Thursday, February 16th, to Houston Woods Lodge. They will be meeting at the lodge at 3 p.m. for check-in for those that are staying overnight. They will be joined by those who are coming for the naturalist program. They're going to come over to the lodge and bring, I'm not sure if it's what animals exactly they're going to share with us, but there will be a program, and then after that we'll all eat dinner at 5:30. And then it'll be a quiet evening around the fireplace with some fellowship, and then they may choose to do board games, dominoes, cards, or just talk and hang out and have a nice nice evening together and a quiet evening. I was going to share that we are, as a group, Senior Club, we're going to begin the new program with the Harrison Library in about a month. It's when they think they'll have it together. We're going to receive suggested reading books that can be picked up and returned here at the community center. We completed their library questionnaires at our meeting this past week so they can best match our readers' interest with the books that they bring out. I think they're going to bring around 50. We now have a book committee who will be going through the books we currently have in the conference room to determine those that can be recycled and donated to the Harrison Library. We do that every couple years, and they're pretty much all there because they are personally owned and purchased by our members or other people in the community. Then they donate them to us, and anybody can check them out and read them as they want to, but we end up with kind of a buildup after a while. So we'll just need to clean that up a little bit to make room for the new plan. Just wanted to share the hula dance class is taking a winter break, and they're going to start up again in the spring. We are currently receiving the 2023 membership dues of $10, and we have 60 plus active members right now, plus any extra friends that they happen to bring along to activities. I submitted a grant application in the last week or so to the Butler Rural Community Connections Program for $800 to renew our membership at the Creative Aging of Cincinnati through the Arts Program. And that's the organization that comes out and provides live performances here at our community center. And hopefully that'll end up being out in our new green space. We'll have some outdoor concerts this year. We last received the grant money from Butler Rural Connections this past fall for $600 to purchase metal folding chairs to be used for the township. There are upcoming outdoor performances, or even like at the cemetery service, anytime we need to have mobile ways to have seats for people, and I plan to purchase them during this next month. All my 2023 baseball field applications have been processed and assigned, and the coaches have just started, I think, to meet. I saw some out tonight. They have also signed off on our rules and regulations form as well as the concussion protocol paperwork. Remke Market donated a generous supply of hand sanitizers for our senior club and for the township, and we are grateful for that. That was very kind of them. We sent a picture of our seniors with their handheld sanitizers just to say thank you, and the trustees also signed a letter for that, so that was good. Just wanted to begin to talk about, just briefly to put it on a calendar for folks out there, the Cold War Patriots have reserved the community center to hold another informational open house on April 18th from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And I'm planning to work on a township newsletter in March and April to highlight upcoming events that we'll be having, some news articles that we might have, and then also highlight anything we want to kind of capture and remember from 2022. I wrote down 3 dates that we don't want to forget. Crosby Cleanup Day is May 6th and 7th. Here at the community center. Strickers Grove is Sunday, May 21st, and the very next week, Memorial Day Parade and Service is Sunday, May 28th. And that's the end of my report.
Busy bunch of people.
Anything for Brenda? All right. Fiscal Officer Matt.
Okay, first, I have a proposed resolution 072023. So what Brian and I talked about this, and I haven't noticed anything yet that would demand or suggest a need for adjusting the appropriation figures for 2023 different than what was presented to the trustees at the organizational meeting, which you adopted as temporary appropriations at 1/3 the amount of permanent appropriations. Typically, we do the permanent appropriations in March. My reading is that they're required to be done by March. I would like them appropriated now if the trustees are willing, One thing that does is it allows us to pay some bills that, because of the temporary appropriations being a percentage of the permanent appropriations, but it may be like a piece of equipment or something like that, we would like to just put the appropriations in if we can. So I have a copy for each of you, and then an extra copy to be signed. Attached is a color, the same document that was in the temporary appropriations motion. It's marked Exhibit A. And so I guess if you take one and pass it, if you review that, and I've got an original here to sign if you approve it in a minute. Also, I'm going to pass down proposed resolution. Here's another one. Alan can have one. I also have proposed resolution 08203, and that is what we were just talking about. The essence of the resolution required, pursuant to the county's letter, the resolution specifically is to authorize one of the trustees to be able to execute the contract, the agreement. So the way I worded it was the president, so that would be Mr. Lohman, and I just generically worded it as president of the Board of Trustees is authorized to execute the joint agreement, and the joint agreement is attached to the resolution for reference. One thing that's interesting is I don't think it's going to matter because it specifically talks about the resolution being adopted prior to the execution of the contract. So you're going to see when you get this resolution, it's not one of these where, you know, we're going to attach like an original or a signed contract. The contract is empty on purpose because it says the resolution needs to be done prior to the executing of the agreement or the contract or whatever. So just in case that was a question, I wanted to mention that. So here's 4 of these you can take and pass down. And then once that resolution is signed, of course, you can take any of these, you know, copies of that agreement, and Mr. Lohman, you can sign it and send it. You know, Brian could probably send it during business day.
I have to sign the contract too.
Yep.
Yeah, and that the whole point of the thing was before it's signed, the resolution needs to be done. Yep. Okay, so there's those. Don't worry about signing now. I'll pass these around maybe at the end. There's a lot of things, unfortunately, on my list. Just help me remember, we got to do the motion and the second and the roll call and the signing once you guys flip through those. In the meantime, I want to give the trustees an update. We had more drama involving Paylocity. So Brian caught this, and I'm thankful for that. With some of our firefighters, Brian caught that there's a discrepancy in withholdings amounts that are notated in the W-2s for some of the firefighters than what they ought to be. And it puts us in a kind of a weird, awkward position, and we've talked a lot about what the best way would be to address this. Paylocity generated the W-2s when it was time to do that. You know, we were engaged with them. We called them about the discrepancy. Their stance as of right now is that it would cost over $3,000 to make corrections to W-2s, which we obviously think is unconscionable. I've considered, Brian is going to check with UAN. He's been working on this nonstop. He's going to check with UAN to see if there's a way that we can make corrections in UAN, possibly issue our own W-2s like we always have through UAN based upon that information, and get the corrected W-2s out. The other complicating factor is if the W-2s, the information that's in the W-2s also affects the information that's in the W-3s. The W-3s are what's sent to the Social Security Administration as the employer, as they keep track of all the numbers and all this stuff. We also don't want the W-3s to not coincide with what the federal tax returns on our 941s are. It creates a whole web of messes. So Brian's been working on it nonstop. He'll continue to work on it. He alerted the firefighters to the issue as soon as we found it, so that we could make sure that they don't file their own incorrect tax returns, because that would create a whole nother mess, and we don't want that for them. It's a mess, and he's working hard on it. And I know he is. We've talked a lot about it.
How long would it take UAN to produce or make a new W-2, like what we used to do before Paylocity?
Well, we actually are the ones that print them out, and the UAN is the software. The question is how to make sure the numbers are exactly correct inside the software system, to make sure that, because we don't fill in each W-2. We don't input the numbers in there as if it's like we're creating an Excel document or a Word document. UAN, it has a function where it generates the W-2 based upon information that's already in the accounting system. The problem was, for that month and a half, we weren't using the UAN accounting software for payroll purposes. There was some manual input that we had to put in there, but we weren't putting the information in manually to the amount of detail that typically comes up on your W-2, like what's your Medicare wages and your what withholdings go to Medicare, Social Security, or other retirement, and those type of things. We were putting in, we were inputting data so that, to the extent to where we could do bank reconciliations to make sure that our books were appropriately lined up. Mm-hmm. That's kind of where it gets complicated. That's like the concise version of it. The answer is don't know, because the information, the guidance that we're hopefully going to get from UAN is exactly how to get that in there with precision so that we can get them printed out. Because, to be honest, we could probably pay a professional accountant to come in and do it for less money than Paylocity is wanting to correct something, and we still don't know why it's off. Like, it's hard to tell. Like, I don't know some of the numbers that came up on these W-2s. Brian and I are looking at each other like we don't know why or how they could have came up with these numbers, because we gave them all of the numbers. We gave them everything related to our payroll financials as part of the setup process. I mean, we know those numbers were right. They came right out of our accounting software. And so, and the numbers are like grossly off. I mean, so in our opinion, somehow their mistake, but at the same time, we've already severed our relationship with them in the first place, and quite frankly, they don't care. So that's why I think the in a bad situation, I think the best try that we have is to be able to produce accurate W-2s through our software if we can. I mean, yeah, we could engage, we could contract, some CPA or something to come in and do it, but then that takes so much time. And you need to get your tax returns filed. So that's kind of what we're juggling here, but that's the update that I have on it. We received, some correspondence from Spectrum regarding, so you guys may recall a few months ago, I talked about how we can never get anybody from Cincinnati Bell to try to sell us service, right? Like an updated phone service or whatever. Well, I believe it's the firehouse uses Spectrum for your internet, right?
I believe so.
Yes. So, Brian's been talking to them. They kind of have been cooperative and communicative, and they're going to put together a proposal, just see if it's something that the trustees are interested in, and on maybe upgrading the phone system here. But that's upcoming.
Cincinnati Bell now.
What's that? Oh, here? Yeah. And it kind of, I would say, I've been very happy, at least comparatively, with the internet service once they upgraded it to the newer technology. We had issues. I mean, there was times where, we were doing a UAN transfer issue, with the state, and it was hours. Hours. It was almost like back to dial-up days. And we're talking about data. We're not even talking about like videos or something. I've been very pleased with, the internet service. We can actually get whole updates to the UAN system from the state without having to upload from hard disks, and we can do it over the internet, and it's done in seconds.
Yeah.
So I wish it would be them, but they don't communicate.
I had switched to Spectrum at work, and they've got really good. It was probably half of what I was paying to Cincinnati Bell, and that was for phone and internet and Wi-Fi and everything.
Yeah, we'll see what they have to say.
Well, the problem with this, Doug, is right now we only have one phone line coming in.
Right.
So we'll have more phones, a lot more capabilities. And
We just need more lines. People call in.
Over there also, in the
Yeah.
fireside.
Right. And some of the things that they offer, we might not always want, but with what they're trying to sell us is that, everybody would have their own separate line, and that they could also forward, if you would receive a phone call, they could forward it to your cell phone. I don't know if I want phone calls at my house at whenever, but that's a capability that they were talking about also.
Yeah, you could just, the call comes in and it gets directed to whatever department or whatever.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Brenda's taking all the messages, leaving everybody messages. This way, everybody would probably have a voicemail account.
Right.
And so you can check your voicemails remotely, I'm sure.
I mentioned we have Brian brought this up, and I think it's good, related to bills. So we tried to get some clarification on, well, the trustees passed resolution 052023, which is basically the instruction that if you have anything that's not an operating expense and it's over $1,000, it needs to be approved by the trustees. And to his credit, Brian's struggling with how to deal with that, because we don't really have a good, clear definition of what an operating expense is. I think when I drafted the motion, the idea was kind of, well, it's kind of a common sense approach, but to Brian's credit, he doesn't want to be held accountable or have our fiscal office be held accountable either, by the trustees or by an audit that comes in that we don't know what their notion of common sense is and what their expectation is about what's an operating expense and what's not. And so far where it's come up is related to fire purchases, and nothing against the chief. It's stuff that in the past I probably would have paid. But we have this resolution, and I guess I'd like to know what the trustees would like to do about that, or how the trustees would want to clarify that. The chief's here, we're here. When there's a bill over $1,000, we've been giving the trustees checks to sign every Friday. Do you just simply want anything over $1,000 that's not brutally obvious to us to just wait until the next meeting and then approve it and then sign it after the meeting? The most recent one, Brian, was what?
We have 2 firefighters, and this is where, clarification would be good. Are we just looking at a total invoice? That we had 2 firefighters go for training, and the invoice is $1,100. It's over $1,000, but it's for 2 people.
And you could also, someone could very reasonably say training
Yeah, and that's the thing is the
not an operating
resolution's so
expense.
ambiguous.
You could have someone argue that it is. I mean,
Yeah.
it's something that didn't really come to my mind when we talked about
Because
it.
when I was in the private sector, there's different sets of why they want to capitalize things, but they would say any invoice over $1,000 would be capitalized. And I understand we have 2 people doing this, or we can come up, I can create all kind of scenarios on how to get around this. That, I'll pick on Harry. He goes to Home Depot and he wants to buy his tar for crack sealing, let's say. Well, to buy a skid of it's going to be $1,200. Well, he doesn't have approval to buy $1,200. So what does Harry do? He says, I'm going to buy half of it. They charge him $600. He goes around again and buys the other half for $600 and takes the whole skid home or back to the shop. Those are things that some of his guys have come up with. Yeah. But that's where we're, we need clarification, that, what constitutes, I understand where we were talking about the fire truck getting fixed. I understand that part. But, training's not, if you want to say individual, invoice totals, whatever, I don't care. But I want it to be crystal clear so you don't get in trouble and I don't get in trouble, because you guys sign them all. And you saw the one, you signed the invoice, the check for $1,100, and nobody batted an eye. So.
Well,
So what do you guys think?
Well, that to me is normal operating expense. When you send every year you go to training.
Not every
Some
year,
of the
but.
bill,
Maybe there should be extraordinary
Years
expenses.
ago, if there was a disaster, and I needed some heavy equipment, I could go up to $2,500 and contract this guy to help us, I don't know, move whatever we needed.
Right.
What do you do about something like that now?
Yeah.
I mean, I never had it, but
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's a good one. I mean, we could expand the dollar amount and, but then, I guess anything that would not be equipment would be normal operating expense. What do you think about that, Mr. Legal Counsel?
Well, I think you need to probably take action on the definition of an operating expense, and we've got some accounting background people here, and I was thinking maybe there's a definition out there somewhere. But it sounds like you need a rather broad definition of it to avoid some of these things.
Well, that we can come up with that. I can come up with that, but then, like we were saying, we had 2 firefighters go for training. Do we want to say a total invoice over $1,000, or do we want to say individual items over $1,000? That's your call, the trustees'
Yeah,
call.
But then, over a course of a year, how many of them are gonna be over $2,000? You know, if we raise the $1,000 limit to $2,000, if you go back and look at the expenses that were incurred,
Well, it doesn't, 1,000 or 2,000, it really doesn't matter.
you just want clarification.
The thing is they could send 4 guys and it'd be
Sure.
$2,200.
Right?
You know, is it
Well, then we
total
need-
invoice?
Come up with a
Okay.
definition for operating expenditures, and then we'll take and act
Okay.
on it in the next meeting.
We'll do that.
We can bring a,
Any ideas
we can
for
bring a,
definition?
Please.
Got any ideas for a definition of an operating expense?
Probably pretty close.
we can bring a proposal to the next meeting if you guys
Okay.
think that that's acceptable. Thanks for that, Brian. Then, give the trustees a heads up. Actually, one of them, Dennis already mentioned that there's an audit from the state auditor specifically related to Ohio Police and Fire Fund contributions. I think that's a regular, I don't think that's anything weird or I haven't gotten a feeling that it's, due to the fact that there's something wrong. I think it's a checkup kind of thing. The reality is if there's something wrong on the report that we file with our payment they let us know about it. I mean, they let us know about it pretty fast. So I don't think there'll be any problems with that. There's
And-
also going to be, go ahead.
Follow up on that, Matt. The auditor will be here Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock
Oh, yeah?
for OP&F.
Okay.
Yeah, for that purpose. There's also another one that's going to start soon related to Bureau of Workers' Compensation. I don't know exactly how far back they're going to look, but one thing that workers' comp does, and I don't know exactly what they're going to do. There's something at the end of every year called a true-up report, and you guys have written large checks in the past based upon the true-up report. So the true-up report, we tell them exactly like how many employees there are. They know how much we've paid. They know how much we ought to pay based upon how many employees there are. And, you pay an estimated amount of workers' comp payments based upon how many employees you say you have. Well, in past years, before I was sitting in this chair, it would be almost like a yearly thing where, workers' comp would be paid. It would be paid. It would be paid. No big deal. And then there would be the true-up report. And then on the true-up report, there would be like a massive check that would have to be written to compensate for the fact that we were paying workers' comp premiums related to a workforce that's like 10 people less than we actually employ. And so when I started learning the process and doing it, we made an adjustment to our estimated workers' comp payments based upon really how many employees we have. The true-up report kind of takes care of like the discrepancy in the money that we are paying versus what we should be paying. I don't think we're going to have issues, but I also don't know how far back they're going to look, and I don't know what they're going to find from previous years. But that's coming up, and I'm kind of interested to see what that's about. The 2018-2019 audit has been submitted and has been approved by the state auditor. And like I mentioned before, we kind of got crushed on that. That wasn't a surprise. I do want to mention that to just give you information on this. After the last meeting, and I mentioned the fact that audit report had been submitted, I received a public records request from a citizen via email asking for a copy of the audit report. I have provided that to him via email, electronically, like that. He actually requested that it be returned electronically. So I scanned it and I emailed it to him either 2 or 3 weeks later. We haven't had one. We really haven't had one significant like that in ages. I noted in the audit report that we needed to have a policy set up for that. So I actually started a procedure starting with that public records request where I printed out the actual request, the response. I printed out a copy of that. I started scanned all of that into my computer, started a folder on my desktop so that we can document the request, the answer to the request, the response. When we get audited in the future and they ask about it, I'll be able to, reach into the folder and give it to them. When I looked, there was not, we'll have to fix this. We're going to have to go through all of our township procedures that we have. We have them. We're not as aware of them as we should be, and they're in the office. We need to go through those probably sometime throughout this year, but there wasn't one at all that I could find really on public records requests. And I did a little bit of research on what was required, and what form it can be and that kind of thing. But we did that.
You may ask Ohio Township Association, they may have samples, examples. Of
Form policy.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Same. Yeah. For all of these, I plan on doing the same thing with the Ohio Attorney General's office. We have going right now a state tax audit. State taxes is the largest remnant issue we've been working to correct from our predecessor and the things that crushed us in the last audit. Part of the complicating factors with that is we can't get them to pick up the phone. So Bob had a login and an authorization to be able to pay electronically the withholdings that we take out of the checks, each paycheck for state taxes. I created long ago. I've created a login. I've created what I believe is, according to their procedures, is the authorization to be able to pay it. You have to pay it through this electronic portal. I can't, according to what I see when I log in with my authorization, I can never find the link to actually get to where I can pay it. I've talked with people and gone through the processes of getting the authorization to do it. Now I can never get anyone on the phone. Brian's been working with them to try to do it as well. When we got notice of this audit, I thought, oh, great, cool. Okay, so I have an auditor from the state. Maybe they can get me to where we can do this. Because of the fact that the audit is ongoing, we're kind of putting a hold on paying those things right now. We're going to do what they say, pay what we need, explain the whole situation to them, and then get to the point where we're regularly caught up on that, just like we have been on the federal stuff and the retirement stuff and all of that. In the meantime, Brian has generated all of the documents and paperwork that they need for their audit, and that's been submitted. We went through the same process in, I'm going to say 2021. No, 2020. No, it was 2021. And Bob did the work on that. So I wasn't totally familiar with the process because Bob did the work on that, and then it was shortly after that he resigned. But that's been submitted, so we'll see what they say. We wanted to ask, this is the first time we've had the trustees in a meeting since. Do the trustees like the idea that Brian and I had of just having checks available by Friday, like weekly, for the trustees to sign, so that you kind of have, from Friday through the weekend, weekly, at your convenience, to come in and sign checks.
Fine with me.
Yeah, I mean, if it helps you pay timely, I mean,
Well, I think another option that comes to mind, or came to mind maybe to some of you, but another option is, do we need like another trustee meeting per month? And for the purpose of bills, I don't think we do. We could minimize the amount of times that we call you guys, and I think still have frequent enough signing to get bills paid on time. If we had it once a week every Friday, and we just made sure that we had a stack for you guys.
I mean, that's fine if something comes up.
Yeah, and then we've done that in the
Yeah.
past. Like,
Yeah, something
if it's
comes
really
up.
urgent, I've even run them to you guys wherever you're at. But
Yeah, I have no problem. Last time we had 2 meetings a month was 2008,
yeah,
because I was the official officer, and then the trustees decided in 2009 could go one. So,
but the problem with
No,
that,
one
for the purpose of paying bills, is I think that what that would cause is too long of a spread, because we get some of these bills come in, and they're considering these things late if you don't get it in, within a week, which is.
I don't think
Well, another
I have any
conversation.
problem on Friday afternoon, Saturday, Sunday. And
I don't. I mean, we got the weekend,
Right.
get
Okay.
in here sometime, that's fine by me.
Okay, just want to check on that. So I think that's all I have. Back to the resolutions. If you've had a chance to look at them at all, is there anybody that would like to move to adopt resolution 072023?
I'll make,
Go ahead.
I'll make the motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mr. Lohman,
Yes.
Mr. Hyam,
Yes.
Mr. Heiss?
Yes.
Okay, I'll pass that around for your signature on this copy here, or this original. Then resolution 082023, authorizing the president of the Board of Trustees to execute the attached joint agreement with Hamilton County. And I guess, since for the record, it's related to the improvements to Benning Lane and Fort Scott Boulevard. Is there any motion on that?
I can make that motion.
I'll second.
Let me ask something, just for the benefit of the trustees. Bottom of, in the middle of page 2 of the proposed agreement, it's got the obligations of the township. I'm sure the three of you have reviewed it. I just want to make sure you're, don't have any questions about that. One is certified that the township funds necessary are available.
Right.
And then, if request from the contractor, i.e. a change order, and then 17, these are all the obligations of the
Right.
township alone.
Right.
No one has an issue with any of that.
No, I read through them and I didn't have any
Okay.
issues with them.
Good.
I thought it was pretty much normal boilerplate way of doing business with the county,
Yeah.
so.
So roll call.
Mr. Lohman,
Yes.
Hyam,
Yes.
Heiss?
Yes. Could you second that, Dennis?
Yes, I did.
All right, so I will pass this around for your signatures as well.
Then are we? Is the contract itself going to be signed separate, or is it going to be signed along with the resolution?
I think technically it should be signed separate. My recommendation would be, especially since you're signing it, Mr. Trends, why don't you take one of the other copies,
And sign
have
that?
them sign it, and then Mr.
Yeah.
Trends, you can send it to the county.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, they want the resolution and the signed contract, so.
The way I read it, tell me how you read it. The way I read it is the resolution. It's the resolution should be, obviously, the signed sheet, by the trustees, with an unsigned contract as an attachment to the resolution,
I agree with that,
and then a separate agreement should be executed.
yes.
And then both of those would be sent
One is-
to
Yeah,
the county.
right.
All right,
I agree with that.
you want to just use my copy?
Sure.
And
And Doug's going to sign on behalf as township administrator.
I would recommend, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, we'll sign and then they have to sign. Sign. Where it says township administrator.
Can he change that to title to the president of the board, because Revolution saying the president of the board.
Yeah, if you want to cross through the word township administrator and just put township
Yeah, I think,
president.
what the
Trustee
Revolution said.
president.
Yeah.
Probably no problem, but you never know. So.
Well, in the letter, it calls for either the administrator or designated, person.
Other appropriate officer,
Right,
Yeah.
which Doug is.
yep.
And then I'll need to take that, or do you want to, Matt, do you want to take that down there? Because you're in the same building.
Yeah,
Well, no, you're in the other building, but Dave Stevenson's, is he in your building?
So
I don't know.
see the prosecutor?
Yeah, Dave's, but he's on the civil side of things.
Yeah, the civil division is in my building. Where did it say this is being delivered to?
Hamilton County Engineer,
I mean, who gets the agreement? So the letterhead is from the prosecutor's office because they're the ones that basically draft and.
Right, they gave all the recommendations.
Yeah.
They probably have to send a contract to the county engineer's office.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think if you gave it to Dave, he'd probably take care of it.
I'm happy to. I suggested that you do it just because you were actually a signer on it, but it doesn't matter. to
Yeah,
me.
because you're down there every day,
I
and
can do it.
Fill in the date on the
it'd be
first
quicker.
That's what I was looking at, yeah. 13th. Okay, yep, I will deliver.
And then the only question I had with Paylocity, when we got out of that, did we have to pay any fees or anything?
Crazy thing is, they haven't sent us a bill. And I'm not gonna sit here and say that I don't think they will. But don't know.
We haven't paid anything to them since, or did we pay the initial?
No, that's why when I asked for the motion, or basically for the blessing of the trustees in separating from them, along with that, giving at least an amount of authorization of things that I could pay to compensate for time they put in. I mean, because they did put in a lot of time. It just wasn't effective for our purposes. No, I don't believe we've paid a single check to Paylocity.
What about Johnson Controls? He was supposed to come back and,
Yeah, I don't see him here. No, we didn't pay anything to them specifically because he said he was going to come back tonight.
Right.
And he was on notice when the hearing was.
yeah.
I talked to him, was it a week or two ago? He actually stopped by. Well, Brenda sent him up to the store and he talked to me, and he said to hold off. I think I put a sticker on the.
You did. I
he
didn't
said
know
to
who it
hold
was
off
from,
and-
but I saw that.
He said to hold off on paying it,
Okay.
So, yeah, no update on Johnson.
and I repeated our concerns that we're paying how much we have to pay every year, and that Harry's the one getting all the calls.
So that's it for me. Hallelujah.
Rick, zoning.
Zoning. We had issued 3 permits last month. One was for an exterior wood boiler, another for an in-ground swimming pool, and another one for an addition. I also have the minutes for the organizational meeting for the zoning appeals, which I'll hand to you. And the third thing is, I don't know if any of you had been contacted by any resident about the landfill on 128. Bruce Construction, I sent them a letter. There was a landfill down there, and I sent them a letter that they're not supposed to be there, and we pretty much, they stopped operation. And after doing some investigation, we come to find out from Hamilton County, I also sent Hamilton County a letter, that Hamilton County issued them a permit in 2010, and they were supposed to issue them 2 permits and require a zoning permit, and the county never told Bruce that. So Bruce is every year applied for one of their permits, which they were continued to be granted, but they were supposed to get 2 permits, and they never had a zoning appeal. So what's happened is, I'll read it. After discussing your situation about your property on Hamilton County Cleves Road with our Crosby attorney and with Olivia from Hamilton County, a conditional use of the site has been allowed during the appeal process, but a special zoning permit must be applied for and approved by the Zoning Commission and the Board of Zoning Appeals. This is the normal process of building anything or the use of land in a floodplain. So the only reason I bring it up is that I had gotten a call, and I mean, it's a landfill, and Bruce was under the impression they were in compliance. And I sent them the paperwork for the special zoning certificate, and they want to comply and go through the whole thing, but they stopped dumping when I asked them to. They complied, but then we said, go ahead and start your operation back up until we get this resolved between the county and between the township. Do you understand?
Yeah, kind of. All right.
So if you get any calls as to why there's a landfill down there, you have a reason
Well,
what's
it's
going
back
on.
there pretty far, and, you know, I just happened to see it and thought it was not going the way it was supposed to, so I haven't gotten any calls. It's just, you know, I observed it when I went by.
Okay. So.
What are they dumping, like building materials?
It's mostly concrete.
Yeah.
It was a former gravel pit. And that's all I have.
I had a question. Like fees you charge, like zoning fees for everything?
Yes.
Does that get like updated and increased at all? I mean, how long, like, has it been?
We increased it, I'm trying to remember, 3, 4, maybe even 5 years ago. I went through and compared all these fees to all the other townships around and tried to come up with an amount on the fees. And that hasn't changed since that time.
Yeah, probably 4 or 5 years ago, because I was trustee at the time.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I just wondered, because just so that we're kind of in line with other
I went through, it was over 20 townships I contacted and found out what their fees were, and some of them ranged for a residential building permit was $25 all the way up to $500. So I took a medium as to what everyone else was charging, and that's kind of how I came up with the fees, and then it was approved by the trustees.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else? All right, thanks, Rick. So old business, let's see. Talked about Johnson Controls. So I know we mentioned before about a sexual harassment policy. Brenda did find that we have one. I believe was it from 2011? Did you see it in your mailbox? Yep. So that's something we could look at and see if it needs to be updated. But I don't know if I guess whoever needs to know we have one, because that was one of the things that they wanted us.
I went through that binder as well, probably where that came from when I was looking, at possible public records policies. I wanted to make sure, however I responded, wasn't in violation of, our own expectations or policies that we set forward. And that's really the concern with these things. Organizations or auditing agencies, government agencies, they want to see that we have policies. The problem is when we have an organization as small as ours, where we have 3 trustees who are part-time, we've got basically everyone's part-time, and you have you go through all the effort to have all of these policies, you just have to make sure that you're really familiar with them, because, if you go through a procedure, let's say in hiring somebody that's against a policy that, when you last had the policy 12 years prior, you did something different, you might open yourself to some kind of potential liability, because you set an expectation for yourself, especially as a government organization, and you did something contrary to what you said you were going to do, even if it wasn't you that said it, it was your predecessors. So, yeah, I mean, I think we need to go through them, but part of the reason for the drilling going through them is just, number one, to make sure that they're up to date, but also make sure, since you're relatively new, I'm relatively new, that we're all familiar with them in the first place. And one nice thing is, I think Brenda also, in doing some work on a couple of different things, Brenda found, I think in her computer, the electronic version of those policies, complete with some track changes things on them and things like that, and that's all some kind of printout that looked like that.
I can clarify. No, it was this binder. The binder was in your office and in my office, and didn't know exactly what was in it, but I noticed that it said procedure manual, job descriptions, and policies, and I knew you all were looking for policies at one point, or talking about, I think, sexual harassment. And I don't know what was required I didn't have privy to that document that said whatever you all needed to look for. And then in a file folder, I found it was a draft. I think what it was is, I think somewhere at some year, because it didn't have the date posted, maybe somebody took a whole segment and decided from somewhere else, some other township probably copied it, and then used red ink and went through it and fixed it so that it would better match what I would assume Crosby Township wanted. And then there was a revised, that was the draft. The actual policy without the red is in this binder. And so rather than, my thought in sharing it with y'all is, rather than start from scratch, we really already, like you're kind of saying, there already was one there. Maybe you modify it, but you don't need to like start all the way over with the language of it. Just take a look at what's there and determine, like you're saying, if it's the current version of what you feel best fits today's need. Yeah,
and that was the whole point of my comment, is you've got a starting place, so it'd be a good place to start and work from.
Yeah, I would agree. There's a lot of information in there that I believe it says on here. It was adopted by the trustees in January 5, 2011. So I just think, we look here first and then just amend all you need to.
Yeah, I don't know at the time was Township Attorney review that or not, because was that you?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either, but I'll
go back and look.
But
12 years ago.
Jane
I-
Pierman wrote that. She went to other townships and got that and copied that.
Who did?
Jane Pierman.
What was
She
her
was working
position?
here.
I'm sorry.
Where was she working? What department was she in?
She was just here. I don't know what
well, she wasn't here when I came in 2000.
No, she was ahead of you. We didn't have any, and she went and drove that up.
That must have been before that, because I was here and she wasn't here anymore. She left.
Yeah.
She left
Here, do you
before I
wanna share
came. So it
She's
wasn't
the
her.
one that drove that up at the time.
That must have been before, because this is one, that time she was not here anymore.
She was ahead the year before you came.
That was the time before.
Well, it
Because
may have been something that at that time it was reapproved,
Rick knows an answer on that. Go ahead, Rick.
Mrs. Pierman, she was a township administrator, clerk type thing, as far as what I understood, but it wasn't an elected position, it was an appointed thing.
yeah, at that time she was not with the township anymore. because I was a
Maybe just
official officer.
approved then, or if it was reapproved, or maybe it was modified a little bit and then approved.
I don't know, but I'm sure Alan probably
Alan, you
was
remember
involved
all
with it.
I don't remember that at all.
Because
How long have you been?
It might be in my files there, but
Okay. So,
I started in 2009. I think, yeah, 2009.
and she left
That does
before.
not ring a bell.
She left before you did too.
Yeah, she was around.
Because I came on board in April 2008. She was not here any longer.
You were here when I came.
Right.
And the only other thing I have is, at the last meeting, we voted to pay time and a half for snow removal. And I know the request was made if it was off hours, but we did it as a blanket thing. And personally, I think that it should be only when it's not their normal hours of work. And it should also include calamity in the language, because we had a tornado or something on a Sunday afternoon, people had to come in to cut trees up or something, that should be part of it. So I don't know, open it up to discussion or what you think about it.
We can amend it.
Can I make a comment? Just, so what I've instructed Brian as we do payroll, my understanding coming out of that meeting was the reason for that particular pay rate for that particular duty was because of the fact that, number one, yeah, sometimes it does come after hours, of course, but it was also due to the nature of the job being done at that time. It's a little more dangerous, it's more skilled, there's bigger heavy equipment being used. And so my understanding was that the consensus coming out of the meeting was that really no matter what time it was, that they were going to get paid that rate for that particular job. I'll also add, we'll do whatever you guys say. But from my perspective, when they fill out their timesheets, for me it makes a lot more sense to pay it that way just anytime that they're doing snow removal, because what it does is, like, on their timesheets, there'll be an additional column that says this many hours done for snow removal. It gets more complicated whenever they're doing snow removal, they would essentially almost have to add 2 columns to that timesheet, like snow removal during normal hours, snow removal during other hours. Another thing about it is they don't come in every day. They come in how many days? 2 days, 3 days?
3 days.
3 days,
12
3 days a
hours.
week. So
12 hours.
So essentially, there's a lot more hours of the week that they're not here than the ones they are here. I don't know how consequential it would be if we differentiated between the two. So just as the fiscal guy, I'll just put that in there before you guys comment on it, and I'll do whatever you want. I don't have any strong, hard feelings about it.
Yeah, we can discuss it in executive session.
Yeah. So,
Great. That's all I have. Dennis?
All right, old business. Working with Alan and Bob May on the shelter project. That's going good now. Had Harry, we did a MCM6 report from soil and water on our runoff and what we got stored here. So Harry filled it out. I took and typed it in and sent it over as an email to Kate Moran, so that got taken care of. The ICRC had a meeting on January 26th. I missed it, but I do have the minutes in case somebody wants to see it. And then I had a meeting with Alan and Bill Weisbrot to clear up the property with the old town hall, so we got that taken care of. And that's it.
Thank you. Chuck?
none.
New business. I have none. Dennis?
I have none.
Chuck?
None.
Man, it's going good.
That's
Other concerns?
Brenda and I'd like to go into executive session with you guys.
Okay.
You can invite anybody into executive session.
I couldn't hear what he said.
I guess he invited himself.
You have to accept him into.
Ah,
Okay.
Somebody has to move for executive session and specifically state the purposes.
The reason.
okay, so we're done with all our business. You have no business out there, you're just here observing? Oh, okay, well,
And you're still awake, and you're still awake.
I hope we didn't bore you too bad out there.
last
Yeah,
month
you-
went last month went an hour longer than this one.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you
We're
came.
not gone yet.
So you don't have to stay until we come out of executive session. You can leave. Because the only guy that's got to stay is that guy back there that's recording us, so. I move we go into an executive session to talk about maintenance supervisor pay and whether it's full-time, part-time. I'd like to also invite Brenda and Brian in to discuss their issues that they have.
You need separate. Don't we need separate assessor session?
I'm sorry?
Don't you need separate
We'll
one?
do them first, and then,
Yeah, come out and go. Yeah, if you're
Yeah.
talking two different things, you need to two different.
Thank you.
Got a second?
Did you move? Second? Okay.
I moved. I didn't get a second yet.
I'll second it.
roll
Okay.
call.
Moment.
Yes.
I am.
Yes.
Ayes.
Yes.
Sounds good.
Do I have a motion to come out of executive session?
So move.
Roll call.
I'll second it.
Oh, sorry. Roll call.
Moment.
Yes.
I am.
Yes.
Ayes.
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry.
You can vote for me.
All right. I move that we increase Rick Espel's pay at 10% effective February the 1st.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Moment.
Yes.
I am.
Yes.
Ayes.
Yes.
I move that effective February the 9th, that we pay Brian $24 an hour.
Just for the record, that's Brian Carter. Is that correct?
Correct.
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Moment.
Yes.
I am.
Yes.
Ayes.
Yes, this time.
I move that effective March the 1st, we pay Brenda Jackson $38,000 a year as a salaried employee.
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Moment.
Yes.
I am.
Yes.
Ayes.
Yes.
And then I move that when we advertise for a maintenance supervisor, it will be as a part-time position with a salary ranging from $25,000 to $35,000 a year based upon experience.
Did you say 25 to 35?
Correct.
And did you say So I got the amount. Did you say how, was it salary? How did you phrase that?
Maintenance supervisor, be
Part-time.
part-time
Okay.
at a salary of 25 to 35 based upon experience.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Lohman,
Yes.
Hyab,
Yes,
Heist.
Yes.
And then as a side note, we decided to keep the snow pay the same, just because of it being, it was discussed because of it being hazardous work, and the conditions, so it's being kept as it was voted on at the last meeting. Is there any other concerns?
Nope.
Our next regular business meeting is March 13th at 7 PM.
I make a motion to adjourn.
a second?
Roll call.
Lohman,
Yes.
Hyab,
Yes.
Heist.
Yes.
10:23 PM.
All right. I will take that agreement.